Hey, how are you? Dave here again. So I'm doing another video, which means at any moment now a bus is going to come past my window for sure, guaranteed. You just wait, guaranteed. Always happens. So what we're going to talk about today is hybrid picking. Hybrid picking is a combination of your three fingers and your pick working together in some sort of glorified harmony. And it's very, very useful because it opens up more opportunities for music. It transcends all styles. It's not country, it's not jazz, it's not blues, it's not you know, classical. Or it transcends all styles, and it's just as useful for lead playing as it is for rhythmic playing. So don't sort of think that this is one of those you know, techniques that you just use here or just use there. Depending on how creative you are, it can transcend all styles. Now, I want to get you started. If you already do a lot of it, well, you're probably wasting your time watching this video, although you never know, it might just give you some other little idea to work with, and that's always a good thing. So a quick explanation of how hybrid picking would work. In its simplest form, it allows you to combine two or more parts. Well, actually no, in its simplest form, it substitutes for a pick stroke. For example, if I was going to play two notes on two adjacent strings, for example the D and G string, I might play the first note with the pick and the second note with the finger. Now you might go, well, okay, I can pick that, you know, why would I substitute a finger? Well, okay, let's now spread it out and let's make it the A string and the B string that we're doing. I'm using my pick and I'm using my third finger on my right hand. Now, okay, when you start having to use your pick to jump around like that, you're introducing a lot more lost time moving up and down the guitar, and you're introducing a lot more opportunity for inaccuracy. So there's not much effort required to do that. Well, let's spread it out. And let's do our low E string and our high E string. I don't really lose any time. You know, when I hybrid pick, I can pretty much do it as easily on adjacent strings as I can on strings that are spread right across the fretboard. So that makes it very easy. If I'm doing lines that jump back and forwards from, you know, from string to string and across, you know, and strings skip, they skip over strings, then once again it becomes very, very useful. If you have a listen to Brett Garsed, you'll hear it done effortlessly and beautifully, by the way, I might add. So, you know, you can use it simply as a substitute for pick strokes to make your picking, to take the load off your pick, basically, and it also gives you a more fluid tone. It takes that aggressive thing away from always alternate picking everything fast, you know, having to rush to a note and then rush away from the note with your pick. It really allows you to be more fluid. Now, if you want to start combining two or more parts, that's where hybrid picking really starts to come into its own. For example, if you take the Beatles thing, you know, and it has a little backing piece going along behind it, right? So you could combine the two and get that effect. And if I can get that effect, okay, nothing short of perfection, right? Anyway, so you're starting to combine parts, and you'll hear it done in all sorts of, you know, in all sorts of different songs. Okay, yeah, and just very, very useful. Now, you can, of course, take it even further than that, and you can start doing, you know, the sort of, you know, really polyrhythmic stuff. And country music is really, you know, taking that to the to a much greater level than rock playing generally does. You know, and you'd find that you can do things that you simply couldn't do with a pick, you know, like yeah, that you just really, the pick can't be in two places spread across the guitar simultaneously. So it's very, very useful for that. Now, let's just quickly touch on some ways to start developing it, right? First of all, like I said, it's a whole new mechanical exercise for your fingers of your right hand if they've never done anything like this, and you have to get used to them picking notes. Okay? And especially for your little finger and your third finger, it's probably not going to be so easy when you start. Certainly your little finger will be the challenge to develop, and is an ongoing challenge for me personally, as to how dexterous I can get my little finger, how useful I can make it. So the way to start is with adjacent strings and just using your second finger in combination with your pick. Just play a chord or something down here, doesn't matter what chord you play, or don't play a chord at all, just play some strings and get used to pick, finger, pick, finger, pick, finger, pick, finger. Okay? When you start getting comfortable with your second finger and your pick, alternate between your third finger and your pick. Now here what I'm doing is I'm playing D string, G string, D string, B string. You know, D string, G string, D string, B string. And I'm playing the G string, I'm playing the D string with my pick, the G string with my second finger, and the B string with my third finger, just to keep it all. Around just to keep it interesting so I don't go out of my mind. But remember, this is the sort of stuff you can do while you're watching the news on television or whatever the hell you like to watch on TV, a movie. You can just sit there and do this quietly. You don't need to be plugged in. It's just purely the mechanics of your right arm starting to work. And then, of course, once you're happy with those two, you add your little finger into the equation. Just easier. You can hear it better if I use the harmonics than if I use the open strings. Okay, that gets your pick and each individual finger starting to work. So you'll develop your speed and try to keep the timing of it accurate. If you can do it to a metronome, then like everything else, it benefits from working with a metronome. You then have to start using your fingers in different ways. Just be real simplistic about it. Just come up with as many different combinations as you can, as you can come up with. Doesn't really matter. It's just an exercise in control, of course. Now, once you've got each individual component working, each finger working, working by itself, you have to start combining them with your pick. And this is where the fun comes in. Yeah? So here I'm playing, my pick is doing every note, and I'm alternating between my second, third, and fourth finger. So forth and so on, until you start to get comfortable, right? And then, of course, you can start doing some little polyrhythmic things where your fingers are operating differently to your pick. You're changing your rhythms for both. and of course start to apply it to music, which is where your own taste comes into it, obviously. But you know, it's a useful technique, and really it's the technique of someone who wants to be able to play without backing. For example, you will notice that there's a great variation in the standard or the level of players, from a player who cannot play without backing to a player who can play all by himself and still be very, very good. Now, I mean, if you were to hand a player a guitar and say, play me something, and they scratch their head and go, well, I don't really know what to play, I can't play without a band behind me, then, you know, then you're looking at one level of player, right? And then if you handed someone else a guitar and said, play me something, and you know, a la Tommy Emmanuel, and they stood there and without any backing just blew you away for 2 hours continuously, then you would start to understand the different levels of musicianship on the guitar. Just being a lead player who requires backing all the time to be able to play is a bit of a baby stage on the guitar. The real musicians, the classical musicians, people like this, who do not need anyone else and are completely self-contained on their instrument, they are, in my opinion, the more advanced players, because they're simply more skilled at making more music come from their guitar. And hybrid picking is definitely one of the ways you can move towards that. I'm not poo-pooing any particular player. I'm just saying that you know, if you want to make the progression, well, you've got to do something different, right? You can't keep playing one note at a time and expect to be any more interesting than someone who plays one note at a time. So anyway, I hope this has been of some use to someone out there, which is, you know, always what I'm trying to do here, is just to inspire someone to do something different. And if you listen to my my Bet You Can't Play This thing where I do this, well, that's hybrid picking, right? I'm using my fingers and my pick to do all that. Yeah, and it's, you know, it's a pretty useful little technique for coming up with interesting stuff, and you'll hear it, you know, in Michael Lee Firkins' stuff. He's a great hybrid picker, that guy. You know, so it's in lots of different playing, especially, you know, in that whole, you know, that whole country thing. It's really used heavily as well, because they know it works, and so they make use of it. Anyway, good luck with it. Enjoy your hybrid picking, and I'll catch up with you again soon.